and welcome back to this tutorial where I'm showing you how you can use my design to make your own DIY MIDI controller enclosure or enclosure to any other electronic project, okay, using the things that I already made for you, right? So this is the second video. If you didn't watch the first, please just go there. So let's come back a little bit. First thing that I want to do here is hide the components. I just want to see the enclosure itself. So I'm gonna click here, and I want to suppress those holes. I don't want to see those holes here, so I'm going to solo the top, and I'm going to come here in those extrude actions. I'm gonna shift and select them, and I'm going to suppress features. So you can see that now everything is going crazy, adapting the whole design to what you need, to what you just did. So okay, we don't have the holes anymore. I'm going to see everything here again. And now I'm going to change the measures for the measures of the inside of my enclosure, which is going to be, let's say, same thing as before. I'm gonna use 200 by 200. Here it's updating again. And 200, but this time I'm going to leave on 35 millimeters height, which is a common size for spacers, which I always use when using arcade buttons, and a width of 3 millimeters, which is a good width for acrylic or wood, like plywood. It can be more than that, but less than that is not going to be good, okay? So I have my square-shaped enclosure. So how you design things, how you create things on this software. First, you need to start with a sketch, like you were drawing in a 2D software, okay? So you need to select a place for drawing your sketches. So you can do that on surfaces or planes. So let's think that this is a surface, right? And I want to draw my sketch here. So you right click and you click create sketch. Now you see that you have this 2D view, and you have all those things here. You can see actually my drawings of my buttons and my everything here, including things that you haven't seen before, like this outside measure for my slide potentiometer. So actually here I have several things that I drew here, like construction lines, things for just for guiding me, and a couple things I actually extruded, like make them a hole, like this part here, the holes, the arcade button holes, right? But before coming here, instead of changing what I've done, we're gonna create something. So we have this folder here, which is sketches. So here is stored all the sketches that I've made. So let's turn off all the planes here and just let's take a look on the sketches. Let me turn them all off. So for example, here I have the top panel sketch. This is the first thing that I've made, right? Where I made the outside and then the fitting points here. Then projection, never mind right now. So I have a lot of things, like most of them are named, the most important ones. So for example, top panel holes are the ones that you can change if you want to change the holes that I already put there for you. PCBs, and USB hole, which is going to be there, right? So all the sketches are added here in the sketch folder. So I don't want to see them right now. I just want to see the last one, which is the one that I just added. So if I put here now the top part, you see that the sketch is here and it was added on the top here, right? So there's several different shapes that you can add in your sketch. So you can come here on sketch. So for example, you can add lines, rectangles, like 2-point rectangle, 3-point rectangle, center rectangle, different types of circles, arcs, polygons, and a lot of things. One thing that you can do instead of coming to sketch is pressing S, and it's going to show you a couple of them that are already here. Or you can just type something here like circle, and you can add to those shortcuts. So let's say like 2-point circle or center diameter circle. Oh, it's already here. So let's add 2-point circle. So now it's here. So every time that I press S, I can see my 2-point circle. So for example, if I want to draw a circle, center point, center diameter circle, I can click here and then I press anywhere and you're going to create your circle. You can just click to finish, or you can type the width of your circle. So for example, if I want a 3 millimeters, 30 millimeters mounting hole for an arcade button, usually you're gonna make it like bigger, like 30.1 or 30.2. So it's not like too tight, and you press enter and enter again. You can move this around. You can add, for example, like a square, and you have like the two measures. You can put like, for example, 40 by 20. Press enter, right? And you can move this around. And you can add several different shapes here. So there's one thing on Fusion that you might see in the sketch, the drawing that's black or the drawing that's blue. When it's blue, means that it doesn't have constraints, or it doesn't know yet what its relative position. Because right now, if I move the whole thing, or if I move this is going to continue here. This has nothing to do with that. Or if I change the size of my top panel, this is not going to be relative to this, or it's really hard to predict where this thing is going to end. So we need to add constraints or relative positions. So one thing, like first thing that you might want to do is changing the dimension. So for example, here I have the dimension, which is 40, and here's which is 20, but I can type D and click in one side and in the other side. So here says adding this dimension will over constrain the sketch. So you don't want to do that because you already have this thing here. But if you didn't have the exact constraint, let's see if we do a circle like that. So see, if I make one center point rectangle, it knows the center point, but doesn't know exactly the distance between the sides. Okay, so I can press D here, here, and now I can put like 30, and I can again D, click here and here, and now put 20. you see that the distance here are black because they were already decided, okay? But I still can move this, and if you can move, it means that the constraints are not all set, right? So how can we do that? So for example, I can set the distance between the center to here, like I can put D, so I can click in the center, and I can click in this side. Let's try it again. From here to here, or here to here. Come on, let's try it again. Okay, so you can see that's from the center to this thing here, and I want this to be 20, let's see, and then I want the distance from here to here to be 20 also. So now you can see that my circle is black. It means that all the constraints are there. You can move those things here. So now the position of my circle is always relative to this part and this part. So if I change the size of my top panel, it's going to be 20 millimeters from here and 20 from here, okay? And here in this sketch palette here, you have several different types of constraints, which are, how can this be relative to this other thing? It can be like coincident, collinear, concentric, midpoint, fixed. Okay, I'm going to leave a tutorial here just on constraints. But for example, this is really useful, like the horizontal and vertical. So I can click here and I can click 2 points. So let's click in this point here to be vertical, or it's gonna be the closest point, so it made horizontal, right? So this is horizontal to this now. So if I move, it's always going to be horizontal, but the other things are still not set. Press Command Z. So now I'm going to tell here that the distance from here to here is going to be always 20. So if we try to move now they are constrained, right? So let's say that let's set the distance here. I want to be this thing. I want to be with the same height or in the same Y number here. So let's put horizontal here and here. Okay, so it adjusted relative to this one because this one is already fixed. Now we can change like this, but we can't change anymore up and down. So what I can do, I can put dimensions between here and here, like, okay, 45. And now you can see that everything is black. Now all the constraints are set. You can delete or add more. You can actually change. For example, if I change this to 50, this is going to go down, but the rest is going to stay the same. So I'm going to delete this. And let's think about like more like a real life situation where you want to place, let's say 16 holes, and you already know the distance between the holes. So instead of like making 16 holes, you can come here to sketch and rectangular pattern. You select an object that you want to make a pattern, which is this circle here. Let's drag left and down to see what are the values that, like this is, I like to do this because I know that it's getting positive here, and here it's getting positive too, right? Because if I go upwards, it's going to be negative then. So direction, we already know the directions here. So distance type, extent, it's going to be the distance between here and here, or spacing is going to be the distance between here and here. So let's say that we want 30 millimeters of distance. No, it's too small. Let's say 40. So we have, I want 4 in this axis and 4 in this axis too. So it's 40 millimeters here. You can do like 2 different measures like that, like 60 and 40. But let's do the same thing. Oops, it's just 4. And 40 here. So, okay. So you see that they are all black now, right? Because they are all constrained, always related to this one. So I want to delete those constraints because I want this to be in the center, right? So now if I move, everything move. So how can I make this to be in the center? So there are several ways, but one thing is like making a line that goes from here, and then finding the center. So you press L for line, and Fusion will make you find the center really easily. So when you see this triangle, it's the center. So you click here and click here. You can make like this. You can change the angle and the size. But I want, if I put here in the triangle, I know that is a 9. It's just parallel to the thing here, from center to center. I click. Now I want to do the same thing from here to here. And I press ESC, and now I'm going to click this line and press X. And I'm going to click this line and press X. Because if I just leave the line, I'm actually dividing my sketch. And if I press X, I make this line into a construction line, which are basically a guide for me, right? So I can fit things here. So what I'm going to do is actually trying to find the center of my buttons. So I'm going to draw a line from here to here, like diagonal, and a line from here to here. Let's make them construction lines. And now I can see what kind of constraints I can use here to align everything. So let's try this midpoint. So I'm gonna align the midpoint of this line with this line. And bam! Everything is aligned because I just aligned the midpoint of one line with the midpoint of the other line. So I could have done this in several different ways, right? So now we have our circles here. We can do several other drawings here, but this is just the basics, right? So now how can we make this in actual holes, right? So we stop the sketch. And where's everything? So sketches are hidden. So here is our sketch. You can hide just this one. So now you want to extrude. You can press Q for press pull. And then you select what you want to extrude. So for example, you can see that now you can select individual circles. So let's select them. Let's see if you just do this. You can select all of them or ask, and you can select individual items. I mean, I need to come back there. Q. So I am in selection. So let's select all of them. So now, for example, you can use this arrow here. If you press OK, you're going to create a positive body, or like positive mass. Command Z. Or if you do it below, you're going to create a hole. But we don't want to do exactly that. We want this to be parametric. So we want this thing to go always just until the bottom part of this sheet. Okay. So let's do the same thing again. Let's select. And here you have some options. You have like all the profiles you selected, like 16. The direction. You can go to just one side, or you can go to two sides, like up and down. So what we want, instead of extent, where you choose like how many millimeters, like -10. So instead of doing this, we could use here like minus width, and they would be like always right. But what you usually do in this case is, instead of distance, you choose to object. So this is going to go always to an object, which can be this one or any other one. And thing like surfaces, okay? It's gonna go until this surface here. So it's going from here to here. And operation, cut. It's gonna select automatically cut for you because it's going down. It's going inside the object. But know that you have different things. You can join, you can intersect, you can create a new body or new component. Those new things are gonna be if you do like positive, okay? So let's just click OK. And now you have your enclosure with 16 arcade buttons. We can put now the rest of the enclosure, and there you go. So let's see in our top panel here. Let's take a look in our timeline. So it's actually here yet the things that we've done before, but it's here to the thing that we just did in the end, right? So you can just do that, or you can actually suppress this and unsuppress the things that we've done before. And see that's even being smaller, everything is aligned because this is relative to this and this is relative to this. Now, of course, because it's too small, the interior part, probably the potentiometers are going to touch the arcade buttons, right? So I'm just going to change the X here to, let's say, 24 centimeters. Maybe it's too big now, but you get the idea. And what if I want to edit this instead of creating something new? We want to come to sketches and find the sketch where those holes are located, which are the top panel holes. And you want to right click and edit sketch. Now you can see all the constraints and all the measurements that I'm using here. So for example, you can see that what is dictating the distance between the mixer from the side is this distance here, 13 millimeters. So for example, if I change this, which is actually 10 millimeters plus width, because yes, so if I want to change for 20, everything goes a little bit to the right. You can see that I don't have a constraint of like how up or down this thing is, because I want to be free to change that if I want, like just dragging the mouse, right? So you can change a lot of things like distance between potentiometers, or the size of the holes, right? Or the position here, like the position relative to the side here is 6 millimeters. I can change, for example, to 10. And I can stop sketch. And now you have all the things adapted again perfectly, right? So let's take a look here on how everything is looking. And we have the controller. If I put the components, oh, there's one thing that someplace during the timeline I didn't adjust it, like the joints, because they all have joints, which means that this is going to fit exactly this hole, and probably I didn't put a joint between the cover with this thing, which is easy to change, but you can see that everything else adapted to the design. So now, how can you make an enclosure from that? Because we are doing 3D, right? But you want 2D because this is for a laser cutter. Or you can just design 3D and actually just take all the measurements with Fusion 360. You can easily export the 2D files or the dimensional drawing, okay? So that's what we're gonna do in the next video. So see you soon.